Mr. Chairman, congratulations. I think it's fair to say that you are, and once you're confirmed, will continue to be one of the most powerful people in the world. So I want to begin today. I have some questions, but first, I have a plea. Above all else, above everything else on your plate, I ask that you please preserve the independence of the Federal Reserve. The last thing that America needs right now is to have the Federal Reserve politicized. It's the last thing the world needs right now. And believe me, the whole world is watching, including our enemies. Now, I get it. Our politics is polarized. I hope you'll remain blissfully ignorant of that. And I get it. I'm not telling you not to listen to elected officials, public officials. I get it. I mean, I can only speak for the Senate. We have some very smart people in the Senate. They have strong opinions and strong personalities. We've got a few senators that, to paraphrase Dave Barry, think they ought to make a Hamilton-style musical about their lives. I get all that. But you've got to remain independent. The dollar, and political fads come and go, but the dollar doesn't. I hope not. The dollar underpins the entire world economy. Politicize it at your own risk. Let me shift gears. Question. Professor Keynes, about whom I know you know more than I do, but Professor Keynes has seen a resurgence in the last few decades in his number of followers. And of course, we both know, Professor Keynes said, one way to get out of a recession is to have the government spend money it doesn't have to deficit spend to stimulate the economy. But Professor Keynes said something else that the media doesn't usually quote. He also said, when you get out of the recession, pay the damn money back, didn't he? Didn't he say that?
Yeah, I was gonna add that. What he said was it's okay to do deficit spending, but you should be doing surplus, in good times to sort of keep it. Yeah.
Now, behind me is a chart of our public debt going all the way back to, I think, 1990. You don't have to be Euclid to see that the direction is up. And it's been up under Republican administrations, and it's been up under Democratic administrations. It's been up under Democratic and Republican Senates and houses. It's up. So here's my question to you. At what point, how much is too much? At what point in your judgment are we going to hit the point where you have to say, no, that's it. We can't do any more. It's hurting the world. It's hurting our country.
So we don't know when that is. And as the world's reserve currency, demand for our paper is very strong. If you had shown that and then asked somebody 15 years ago to predict what interest rates would be, they wouldn't be predicting that the 10-year would be at 175.
No.
Right? So there's been a lot of demand.
But they would have predicted that the debt was going to go up.
They would have looked at that picture and said, well, you must be experiencing difficulty borrowing, but we're not at all. So, no, we're on an unsustainable path. Debt is not at an unsustainable level, but the path is unsustainable, meaning it's growing faster than the economy, meaningfully faster than the economy. We have to address that over time. We will address it over time. And the better way to do it is soon and to do it in good times. Start when the economy is strong and the taxes are rolling in. And that's you know, since we don't do fiscal policy, but I will say that the sustainability of the debt is something we need to get back to and focus on again.
Good luck, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Van Hollen of Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Chairman. We all recognize we've got continuing economic challenges, but I think it's important to look at some critical areas where we're much better off today than the Fed predicted we would be at this time just a little while ago. We've seen a record increase of 6.4 million jobs in our economy in 2021. And back in December of 2020, when the unemployment rate was 6.7%, the Federal Board of Governors projected that the unemployment rate in December of the year we just came out of would be 5%. Isn't that correct?
I'm sure, I can't do it from memory, but I'm sure you're right.
All right. Well, as I reviewed your predictions, that was what it was. And in fact, we did much better than that. The unemployment rate for December, the month that we just left, was 3.9%, and the unemployment rate for that fourth quarter of last year was 4.2%, a year ahead of what the Fed had predicted. Is that right?
Yes.
And what happened in between was a lot of us here in the Senate and the House and folks around the country looked at those projections and said, that is not the kind of course we want to be on, and we passed the American Rescue Plan, which helped stabilize the economy and helped result in those much improved employment numbers. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Now, let me just talk about inflation. I think all of us recognize that Americans are experiencing price increases in many areas. The Federal Reserve has predicted the Cleveland Fed, it projected a 2.6% inflation rate for this year, which matches the Federal Reserve Board's projections. If you look at consumer expectations, not surprisingly, they're running higher than that because of where we've been in the last couple months. But can you explain why you're confident at the Federal Reserve that we can hit that 2.6% target while continuing to push for full employment?
So that is the median of expectations, of individual expectations. We don't have a committee or official Fed forecast. And it's conditioned on a number of assumptions. And you know, the most important assumption here is that we do get significant relief on the supply side, that global supply chains loosen up and we get, you know, more semiconductors so that we can start manufacturing cars again. That's essentially, that's going to be a big part of getting inflation back down. Part of it will also be our moving from a very highly accommodative policy to a somewhat less accommodative policy, but still accommodative. But a lot of it will come on the supply side.
Right. And on the supply chain issue, I mean, there have been recent reports of progress in a number of supply chain bottlenecks. Can you just speak to your perception of where that stands?
Yeah, so it's just, you've always see a few snowflakes, but it doesn't amount to a storm yet. If you look at the Port of Los Angeles, Port of Long Beach, record numbers of ships still at anchor. We did see, and this may be what you saw, that inventories are moving up and delivery times have shortened, and that's a good thing. But on the other hand, you know, Omicron can really, particularly if China sticks to a no COVID policy, Omicron can really disturb the supply chains again, although it could be briefer this time. So I think the picture is, you know, we wouldn't want to say, I wouldn't want to say that it's decisively improving yet, but we're watching it carefully.
I got it. I was pleased to hear President Biden say when he renominated you for this position that you saw the economic risks of climate change as a, quote, top priority. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
And if confirmed, how do you plan to prioritize addressing the financial risks of climate change in your next term?
So we have a role to play. It's a narrow one, but an important one, and that is it relates to our existing mandates. We don't have a new mandate on climate change. It is really the simple mandate, the central mandate of supervising and regulating financial institutions to make sure that they're aware of and able to manage all of their risks. And we're doing that particularly focusing on the largest financial institutions who, by the way, are spending a lot of time themselves on these issues. And secondly, looking at financial stability issues. You know, we have responsibility for the stability of the financial system, and over time, climate risk can play into that as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to see that you do agree that it's a top priority. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.